I'm Dr. Deb Butler, and you're listening to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is episode number 297. Welcome to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. If you're a woman and you're smart and you're successful and you've been struggling with weight your whole life, and now menopause is making it harder than ever, and you are ready to make this the last time you ever have to go on a diet again, then this podcast is for you. Stay tuned. Well, hi all my dear friends. How are you today? I have got one of my most beloved clients on today. We just finished working together a couple weeks ago, and I really wanted to share her experience with you, and she wanted to share her experience with you too. So I'm very excited to have her on today, but I want to say a few things before you hear the interview. And that is, as all of you know, I do have my Thinner Peace Holiday Challenge going on for the rest of this month, which means those of you who have accepted my challenge are agreeing to use my Thinner Peace food journals that you can get in my discussion guide, my companion book, by going to drdebbutler.com/change. And that's where these food journals are. And you're agreeing to use a food journal to write down what you ate, what time you ate, how hungry were you, and how full you were every day until the end of December, so that when you wake up on January 1st, you will have given yourself a gift of connection, maybe weight loss, and more than anything else, that you have honored a commitment to yourself that no matter what goes in your mouth, you're going to write it down and you're going to think about it. Because I will tell you, as you will hear in this interview with Nanette, the biggest thing that she learned how to do was how to have an internal source tell her when to eat and what to eat. And that internal source is her, not some external diet, not even Dr. Deb, her. Because the coaching that I do, my process that I use is about learning how to connect inside of you. So if you haven't hired me, you still can hire me if you want to learn how to do this process, but without spending a penny. If you are willing from this moment on to write down and eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full, what that physical hunger scale number is every single time, I guarantee you that the connection to your body will not be the same come January 1st. Now, Nanette went way beyond that, of course, and she's going to talk to you about that. But the first step, this holiday gift that you can give yourself, is instead of spending money, make a commitment, because that's the other thing. That was Nanette's compelling reason, was to honor her own commitments. You can start with honoring your own commitment right now by doing this Thinner Peace Challenge. Now, before I put Nanette on, I just want you to know a few things about her. Is that she's amazing, of course, and I love her. Of course, that goes without saying. But she's been through a lot in her life, and she is a breast cancer survivor, very, very proud of it, and very empowered by what she went through. And she loves helping other people, which is another reason why she's on this podcast, is because she wants to share her journey of what it was like to learn how to connect into her own body, because she is very strong in wanting to take care of herself because she's a breast cancer survivor. So I wanted to share that with you because it says even more about her. She is a strong, beautiful woman. So whatever else you do right now, I want you to sit back, relax, take a walk, and listen to this interview with Nanette. And at the end, I'm going to get back on and say a few words. But if she doesn't motivate you, I don't know what will. Enjoy. Hi, Nanette. Welcome to my podcast.
Hi, Dr. Deb. I'm excited.
I know. I'm so excited to see you. We've been talking on the phone for months now, but
hmm
when I do these transformation videos, I really like everybody to see that you're a real person.
Mm.
And it's easy to write down words, but to actually have it come out of your mouth, what you're thinking and feeling, I think is so helpful to other people. So I really appreciate you coming on here and saying what you think about working with me and what your transformation has been like. And I'm kind of curious when we start is what if I love this is always my first question. What made you decide to schedule a mini session? I love to start with that question.
It was like literally just a couple of days after even discovering your podcast. And
Was it just a couple days?
yeah, it was really soon. I mean, I listened to a bunch. I drive a lot because I'm a real estate agent. And so
Yeah.
I just listened to like lots of podcasts in a row. And I had just been like a binge on a certain food and I was just feeling defeated. And I was like, I just do this all the time. And I know all the things to not do this, but none of them seem to work or stop. So anyway, I found your podcast and then I was listening to it all and I was just
How
like,
did you find it?
I don't remember if I searched on the internet or on my podcast app, but I searched menopause weight loss because I have a lot of trainers and nutrition trainers, whatever, and they're all younger than me. And I just honestly don't really, they say they understand menopause changes and things. And I think it's different in everybody. And so I knew that they didn't really get it. And I knew that there was got to be some other answer, but I wasn't admittedly looking for like some kind of scientific fact stuff, right? The right diet. But I also kind of knew instinctually that that wasn't really the answer. So your podcast immediately resonated. Like I didn't look at any others. Once I kind of read the essence and listened to a couple, I was just like, oh, I get it. This is, this is what I need. I don't need someone to tell me how to eat anymore.
Wow. And so you got that just in a couple podcasts because I'm pretty clear that I'm not about what you eat, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you probably were listening because you had maybe had a binge.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And so what made you decide to set up the mini session? What got you to do that? Because I think that's the hardest thing for most people to do.
Because I felt like I'd hit a bottom. And that makes me emotional because I think we talked about this in one of my things that when I was 19, I went to eating disorder treatment center and I hit a bottom there too. And it was just like, if I don't make this thing right now, I'm just going to continue in the way your brain adjusts to make excuses for what you're doing or to just keep on going. And I was like, I need to make an action that doesn't let me stop. I knew that signing up for the free call meant I was actually going to sign up for coaching. Like I didn't think I was just going to talk to you for free. I had to think about it after learning more about it, but I kind of knew that was my actual step. And the funny thing is how I scheduled it kind of far in advance. And then I was having I think I had another binge and I just thought to myself, I have to do this sooner. And I looked on your schedule and there was a magic appointment the next morning to the point where you even had to check in and go, did you mean to do this? Like, I didn't see this before. So, and I love stuff like that. Like, okay, this is a total sign from the universe that this is the next step I'm supposed to do.
And I remember that so clearly because I saw you scheduled out and then I think I had a cancellation. Like, I don't know exactly what happened, but I realized that the person I thought I was going to be talking to, I wasn't. And what I remember about what you wrote, and then because I want you to share this, is you just said, I can't go another day. Mm-hmm. I'm desperate. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to say something about where you were at the time? Because I don't think of you as, in all the months that I've known you, I don't see that in you as a desperate person or even having that feeling very often. So where were you? What happened where you got to that point? Because I think everybody can relate.
Yeah. I don't see myself as that kind of person in general anyway. And what I've learned.
Neither does anybody else.
Right. But I've learned that I hold myself together a lot. And also that some of my bottoms or my sort of desperate moments may not appear as desperate as, I don't know, something you might read about someone else. Right. So I dismiss them as like, oh, that was just some toast. It wasn't really that bad. I'll just do better tomorrow. But there was just a moment where I just was like, I can't keep trying to hold myself together. I have so many other things to take care of. If I can't take care of myself, it's hard to remember the exact thoughts, but I just knew that if I didn't do something different, I would just be in that same feeling again of not being able to hold myself together.
And when you say holding yourself together, What do you mean by that?
Being able to maintain my job and my parenting and how I present myself to the public, what people think of me. That's something that I'm sure we'll talk about because that was a big thread. Yeah, just this lifestyle that I have that's like I have a really good life. But there's this part of me that felt like the food part was out of control. And if I let everything go, then I don't really know what it would look like, but it felt scary.
It felt scary to let everything go in terms of eating, or what do you mean let everything go?
Yeah, in terms of eating, definitely letting that go. But I felt like that would sort of, if I had some kind of emotional breakdown, then I couldn't take care of anything else.
So what you're saying is that you felt some pretty strong negative emotions, period. And you were also eating and feeling like you couldn't control that either.
Yeah.
Is it like that?
It's definitely like that.
Okay. And the desperation, because you really did literally say to me on the phone call and in the email that you were desperate.
Yeah, I was desperate. I didn't see any other avenues to get that. Like I said, I've been in an eating disorder treatment center. I've done the Weight Watchers. I was like, I'm sure a lot of people are like this, but I was like, I know everything, but there's something I don't know because I'm not handling this well. And so, yeah, that's where I was desperate. It's like, if I think I know everything, what else is there? There has to be something.
And did you find that you were eating more and more the way you didn't want to be doing it anymore? Like, did you find yourself binging more too? You just realized that maybe you were out of control and desperate?
When I get to those kind of feelings of feeling desperate, like at that moment, I do tend to binge more. Yeah. It's not all the time. I kind of pull myself together. Yeah. If I'm going through a period of time where I'm feeling super emotionally out of control, then the binging, it can be like every day for a few days.
Okay. So the desperation is what led you to hiring me.
Yeah.
And my memory of this is that almost disappeared the moment I never heard that again from the moment that we started working together. And I wonder if you could say just a little bit about what it was like for you to make the decision to invest in yourself, because you changed. It's like you were all in from the minute you got on the phone with me. And it was like there was no more desperation left. Quickly. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even coach you yet.
No, because my first coaching was scheduled pretty far out because of your schedule.
That's right.
And I had also a trip, but we had one brief call just to kind of get some stuff together, talk about a few sort of mindset things. But yeah, it was just this feeling of, it was like a safety net. It was like, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I've made this decision. I've made this commitment. I paid this money, lots of little things, and I was just like, I can just relax now and let the work be unfolded within me.
Wow. And that's really huge. And I want to say that for people, because I think the hardest thing for a lot of people to do is first schedule the mini session and then two, invest the money. I would say those are the two hardest things about working with me. I don't think the work itself is half as hard as those two decisions. Mm-hmm. Tell me where I'm wrong.
No, you're completely right. I mean, the work is hard. But no, those two are the hardest. There's a lot of fear to make the first call. And there's a lot of fear about spending money on just in general, depending on regardless of your financial situation. It's just, you're like, is this going to work? Or I could go shopping at Nordstrom for bigger clothes. No, I'm just kidding.
So let me ask you this. Did it work?
Working with you? Did it work? Yeah, it worked.
Okay. So let's kind of talk a little bit about the journey a little bit. So you made the call, the desperation kind of disappeared, just knowing that I think you just believed you were in the right place at the right time, because I think that's kind of how you think that there's a power a little bit stronger than you and that you knew that it was meant to be. A mini session opened up the day that way before you had scheduled the one before. It just opened up immediately. It was the next day. So what would you say was your biggest, because there's so many different things that we worked on. And I always talk about with people that it's a transformation. It's not just about what you're putting in your mouth, even though I think probably what you have put in your mouth is different. But how do you feel right now about eating and food and your body compared to the way that you used to feel? How do you feel now?
I think it can almost be summed up in one of the sort of phrases that we talked about in our last call. And it's just that there's just no more drama. I feel less dramatic about food and about my body and about food choices, food situations. I don't want to say I don't think about it at all, but I just think about it so much differently. It's not the main focus.
Yeah. And maybe like when you say drama, because it just becomes food.
Yeah. It's just food. Yeah.
Is that the way it used to be?
No, it used to be, I don't even know what it used to be, but it used to be sort of tumultuous stuff. Oh, it was either bad or it was good, or it was going to make me happy, or it was going to feel terrible, or there's lots of things around as food. Yeah.
I just think it's so interesting. And so now a lot of the things that we talked about that was connected to why you ate when you're not hungry had a lot to do with communication and connecting with other people.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we want to talk a little bit about that, because you're a very successful real estate person and you deal with a lot of quote unquote stressful situations. You deal with very, very successfully, and you do a lot of social things, and it involves food and it involves drinking. And tell me how it used to be with this, and tell me how it is for you now, because we did a lot of work on situations like this, social situations.
Yeah. So it used to be like in social situations, it sort of varies, but I mean, I basically turn off any connection to my body. Sometimes I eat in social situations because I'm uncomfortable, because even though I'm pretty outgoing, I feel pretty self-conscious or shy or in some situations. So eating is preoccupying, or I have a lot of memories of food lingering on the table and me being the only one still grabbing stuff just to sort of get through the rest of the night. Or there's the thing of, if it's a big expensive dinner, honestly, sometimes the reason to keep eating is because, oh my God, I'm never going to be here again, or this is a big deal, or they're paying for it, I should take advantage, or, all that stuff. And drinking, I don't really drink that much, but occasionally it would be to ease social anxiety feelings and think like, well, if I'm going to dance or have that kind of fun, I need to have some drink. So now that is still something that I still have to consciously think about. This isn't like just sort of natural yet.
Well, I don't know that it'll ever be natural. So I think it's really good to talk to people about how you went from that place and now how you consciously choose to be in a different place.
Yes. So, well, one thing I sort of say to myself before going in or before going out is I do say my compelling reason. We haven't really talked on that, but one of them is that my main compelling reason is I honor my commitments to myself. So I say to myself, I commit to eating when I'm hungry and stopping when I'm full. So I try to just remember that when I'm there, and really try to engage with people and have conversations and look people in the eye and be more present rather than trying to not be there. And also just realize that it is uncomfortable in any situation, that sometimes, I just have to accept the discomfort.
That's huge, because that's probably one of the biggest reasons that you were eating anyway, is because you were uncomfortable. Right. Yeah. And when you say you make a conscious decision, I think it's really good for people to hear is that sometimes it's uncomfortable not to eat. So you have to feel the discomfort of having to feel the discomfort of feeling uncomfortable, or if it's around people or if it's around.
Yeah. And it is interesting. I have had people say, oh, why aren't you eating? Or why aren't you finishing or something? And you just have this moment, oh, am I going to answer? And, I just say, oh, I'm full. But
it's not that big of a deal, is it?
It's not that big of a deal, but it is interesting how some people do notice.
Not only that, you thought it was a big deal. You didn't know what you were going to say. You thought they were more interested in you than they were too.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think like that. What am I going to say if I don't want to eat? It's like, I'm full. It's like,
right.
That's all. It's like,
that's all.
That much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I put a lot of thought or weight on what I think other people think.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because I just actually did a podcast on people pleasing. And
I heard it.
And for you, I would say that's one of the things that we discussed in the beginning. And I think it is one of the things, I would say that's one of your biggest transformations. I think whenever we got on the phone, especially like the last 5 or 6 calls, every time you got on the phone, you just kept saying, I'm great. You were always just feeling so happy and so high. Can you talk about where those feelings were coming from, about why you were feeling so good and why you are feeling so good so much more now?
I think it has a lot to do with that there's just less drama surrounding food. And then as far as like, I just know that every day I'm thinking about my commitment to myself. And then as far as like what we just talked about worrying about what other people think, I remember one of the things we talked about, so I don't worry as much. And one of the things we talked about is I was trying to say, we changed the wording from, I can't remember what, but it was something more digestible. It was, I want to learn how to not care what other people think. So I'm willing to learn to not care. So that was like my first step, is like, I can't just decide in one day that I care less about what other people think about me, because I've always been really over concerned about that. So just
You and
starting to wanting
every
to be
other
willing.
woman in this country.
Okay.
It's kind of
I'm
like
not
I
unique.
don't know.
Yeah. Especially with social media. So it's just this sort of baby step of I want to learn how to not care. And just saying that kind of freed it up. And I just don't care as much. I just feel freer. It's hard to put into distinct words. I hope this is
Well, I
still
think
helpful.
the freer is why you're feeling so much more happy, because what happens and what I see that happened to you is that when you realize that you were caring more about what other people thought about you than what you thought about you.
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, I cared more than what I thought about me. That has really shifted now.
I think that's probably the most important shift that happened, because you can check in with you anytime you want.
Mm-hmm.
And you can know what you're feeling, and you can know what you want, and you can know if you're happy, and you can know what will make you happy. Would you say that you're better at giving yourself what you need and what you want now?
Definitely. Yeah, it's so funny. I don't think I even really consciously thought that much about that, but I think that's my sort of inner compass now, is to sort of figure out what I want and what makes me feel good. And we haven't really touched on this too much, but it's freed up my relationship with my children a lot.
We did touch on that. Well, the interesting thing about that, because I want everybody to hear this about your transformation, is that our first call was all about your children.
Yeah.
And you had lots and lots of stories about them and what your responsibility was. And that's when we really started about this whole pleasing thing and about your mindset and about how you're using it. And when we ended our last call, it was like this conversation. Well, how are your kids? They were the topic. And then it was, what kids?
Yeah.
It's like, not that you don't love them, but it's like, I think you decided that you weren't in charge of making them happy.
Yeah. I actually might say right now that is probably one of the biggest, most helpful thing that's happened during this time with you, because that was so big. Without getting too much into it, they're sort of both have difficult kind of situations and they're young adults. And I just was like, everything was about worried what they thought of me. And
of course. Why would we stop with our kids?
Yeah. And everything I did was kind of making sure that I didn't upset them or set something off that would make life more difficult for me. So I thought I was doing it to help me by catering and doing all this kind of stuff for their comfort rather than mine. I thought that was taking care of myself and making things easier, but it wasn't. That was part of that kind of chaotic desperation of not having control of everything. And now it's not like I don't care what they think or do, but I have removed my emotions from a lot of that. And I haven't even really changed my behavior, but I think they can tell. Well, I know they can tell because we have more regular conversation. I can't explain it. It's just lighter.
Well, this is what I think. It's like when you change the way you think, when you decided their happiness was not your responsibility, I think you made that decision. I think that was part of our coaching. Because I think we did a lot of coaching about your responsibility about a lot of people, not just
a lot of people.
And the reason I'm bringing it up, because this had so much to do with eating and what you put in your mouth and when you put it in your mouth. That's why I brought it up with the social situations. But with your kids is once you decided that you weren't responsible for their happiness, but you were responsible for your happiness. So you knew what was going on with you with them, even if you didn't know what was going on in them, you knew. And you started taking responsibility for your end of what was going on for you. And I think that changes the way you act. Like, I think you were trying to control your actions so they would like you.
Yeah,
right?
So
and
I'd
so
be the best mom ever.
I want them to like me. I don't want them to be mad at me. And so you really weren't being yourself. And I would say that across the board, probably in many situations, it was kind of like, I want you to like me, so I'm going to change to be the way you like me. And how does anybody even know that?
Yeah, that's true. Mind readers.
Right. And I think that the reason that you're so happy now is I'm really thinking about this after working with you. And then I think about your kids. And then you're talking about everything is lighter. That when you start taking the responsibility off of them to make you happy, then they can start being themselves. And you actually you start being the real you with them.
Yeah.
And then you actually end up having real relationships.
Yeah. And they're allowed to be more the real them.
Well, they always were. You can't control them anyway. You were trying to.
Yeah, I get it. Yes, yes. Yeah, that's so true. Wow. It's really nice.
Yes. And I'm bringing it up because what I'm saying about your children, I think has just gone across the board with all kinds of relationships, from working relationships. But the main thing is that one of the things that we talk about is we talk about a compelling reason about why you want to do the work. And for you, you had a story about yourself from your past that you never keep your own commitments, which is such bullshit anyway.
Yeah.
You were carrying that. And when we worked on a compelling reason, you made your compelling reason that I want to learn to honor my commitments to myself. Is it something like that?
Yep. That's how it started. Yep.
And say something about that. Say a little bit about that.
Well, yeah. So I did have a story that I don't follow up on commitments either.
Big story.
Yeah. It's all across the board, from diets or exercise plans or my to-do list or everything. I'm always like, oh, I'm just a flighty Gemini. I just don't follow through on stuff. I'd label myself as that and make excuses. And that feels bad. If I really think about those things, I can have shame about some of them, not finishing grad school or whatever. So other thing we talked about, putting that word, I want to learn, really helps me get there. So I don't say that I want to learn part now.
So it started out with, I want to learn to honor my commitments, just so you could believe that it's possible that you could, because you were so stuck on that you couldn't. And you were trying to use that to work with me, that you can't honor your commitments, but somehow this is going to work.
Yeah. That's funny. So I just sort of opened up the door by saying it that way. And now I just say, I honor my commitments to myself.
And you believe it now, don't you?
I do believe it. Yeah.
Right. And
not perfect, but that's...
why don't we say a little bit about the perfect? Let's just say...
that's big for me too. We talked about that too, because part of my perfectionism tendency is shown in that not honoring commitment. So rather than do something perfectly, I'd rather just not do it and then be seen as not perfect. So I used to sort of say I'm not a perfectionist because I didn't go and get like straight A's or do all this thing perfectly, and I'd rather just not do it and then be like, well, I don't care about that. I have that kind of sort of attitude. So it's okay to not be a perfectionist. It's okay to not be perfect.
It's okay not to be perfect.
Yeah.
And still be committed to yourself.
Yeah.
And to still think that you're worth, because I think your own worthiness level went up so much when you started believing that you were going to commit to yourself and that you were worth it. And the more you believe in your worthiness, the higher your commitment level has gone.
Yeah.
They almost went together.
They did.
I love talking about it through this because I didn't have this all planned, how we were going to talk. I love that it's just happening organically, that people can hear this, that you hired me. Did you lose weight?
I did.
How much weight did you lose?
About 17 pounds.
17 pounds. And what was it like losing 17 pounds working with me compared to anything else you've ever done before?
It was, I guess, partially unexpected because I wasn't on a diet. It was
about that. This is like, believe me, everybody's going, how'd you do that?
I mean, I guess logically, I definitely would be eating less because I'm stopping when I'm full. And I think that that's less than I would eat before. But it wasn't the external rules of eating. That's what I used to do. Always either a diet or an app or whatever, calories, all that stuff. So it was interesting to sort of not even, and that idea I can eat whatever I want. And so that... And
you believe that too, don't you? Because when they hear me on the podcast, you think that now. You actually believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lost 17 pounds thinking that.
Yep.
And
so it was kind of like a surprise.
Because you could eat whatever you want. Were you like eating bonbons all day long?
No. So in some ways, the weight loss was a surprise, but it was like a sort of added bonus, I guess. And it definitely, I still want that and I still want to lose more, but it's not my goal, I guess. My goal is just to keep on being happy and happier and feel good.
Yeah. And the way happiness is coming from not weight loss. It's coming from your own mindset. And I think a lot of your happiness is coming because you believe you're worth committing to. Nobody can take that away from you.
Yeah.
Ever. And when I think about that, and I think about your commitment to yourself, is that your commitment to yourself, like if we think about your eating protocol, your protocol basically was eating between the twos, basically, right? And you would eat Joy Eats. So you have Joy Eats, and could you mindfully enjoy a Joy Eat? Did you know how to do that? Could you do it?
Yeah, I can do it now. That's still a struggle for me.
Say something about that. Say something about that.
Yeah, the Joy Eat is something sweet that can trigger.
Something non-nutritious. It doesn't have to be sweet.
Okay. Well, yes. So if it's like a chocolate dessert or something that is, or cookies, or the feelings of wanting to eat more of it are pretty strong. The urges are really strong.
Uh-huh.
So I'm still sort of figuring that out. I still have to sort of stop and think about what's causing the urge, or just acknowledge that it's an urge and acknowledge that I can have that same joy eat tomorrow or later when I'm hungry. Those thoughts are still like, I have to really stop and think about them.
Which is going to be the way
do the work.
Like people just don't finish working with me or years. It doesn't mean that goes away.
Right. That's a good thing to remember. Because then you think it's supposed to be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. But you still believe that you can eat whatever you want, but you have to be conscious when you've had a brain that didn't believe that you could do that. And you had a brain that believed you couldn't stop and you couldn't control yourself, because it wasn't that long ago when we got on our first call that you didn't believe you could control yourself around food, period. That's where I think you live.
One of the biggest sort of differences in that realm for sure is that feeling of having to finish up a box of something because I'll never buy it again. I was like, well, I might as well finish it because I'm just never buying it again because that's a bad food. And that is so amazing to not have to do that anymore, or to not do that. Like it can just exist in my cupboard, or I can not buy it if I don't feel like having it. It's just a thing.
The drama is
gone.
The drama is gone. And at the same time, like, I love that you just said, yeah, but joy eatings are still a challenge. I want people to know that you don't just stop working with me and you have no challenges and everything. Do you believe that you have the tools to handle it?
I do believe I have it. I know I have the tools to handle it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing, is that you know that. And that's how it's the last time. It's not because you won't have issues.
Right. Yeah.
It's only because that you know you have the tools and you know how to bring yourself back. Tell me where I'm wrong.
No, that's exactly right. And that was such a really good realization. I think it was even just on our last call, because that perfectionist part kind of came in and I was like, oh, I'm still struggling with this and that. And you're like, you're always going to, because this is just ways of living. This isn't just a fix. So yeah, just having the tools and having the comeback be I'll always come back.
I
to the tools.
that you'll always come back. And more than anything else, you know that you can honor that commitment.
Yes. I want to say one more thing about the always coming back. It's the coming back without hating myself for what I just did. That is also key, because that hating myself and being mad at myself and thinking that I'm just a freaking loser or whatever, like, oh, well, I worked with Dr. Deb, but geez, I just still ate X amount of cookies. That's probably the biggest difference for me, because I'm very much in the past could be really all or nothing and be like, oh, I messed up. So that's it. Didn't work. And now I talk compassionately to myself. Oh, Nanette, it's okay. You're doing good.
Big difference. That you can come back. Well, listen, before we end, what would you say to all the people? Well, you didn't hear my podcast for that long, but there are some people that have been listening for a while, or that might be listening for the first time. And what would you say to the people who are out there who are thinking about pushing that mini session or investing in themselves? What would you say to them after your experience with me? What would you say to them about that?
I would say that it is so okay to realize and to be okay with not that you can't necessarily do this alone, that it's okay to have help, to have someone get you through this. Like, even if you think you know it all, like I thought I did, or you just think that like, oh, that sounds good for them, but I'm different. It's okay to have help, and you need help. We need help in whatever form, and your help is amazing.
Yeah. So say a little bit about that, because some people think I'm a little strong. Maybe I wouldn't call it mean, but scary, tough.
You're tough.
So yeah. So what would you say about that? Was it scary working with somebody like me?
It wasn't scary. No. I mean, there were tough times, and the tough parts were interesting because I was like, okay, this is probably where the work needs to be done. Kind of reminds me of a yoga. When you're doing a yoga pose that's really difficult, we learn in yoga, instead of sort of, I don't want to say push through, but it'd be like, okay, this might be the pose. The pose that you hate is maybe the pose that you need the most.
So was I mean about it?
No, you weren't mean. I wouldn't say you were mean, but you dug to where it's uncomfortable.
And that's what helped you grow.
That's what helps you grow. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it helped me grow.
And would you say that I did it in a way that made it easy for you to be able to do that safely?
Absolutely. You have a loving base to all of this. And there's always, every time something feels difficult, it somehow unravels into a peaceful moment of understanding and realization, something that you do.
Beautiful. Well, Nanette, thank you, sweetheart, for being on the podcast. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I'm proud of myself.
Yeah. I bet you are.
That's such a
I bet it's
great
wonderful.
feeling.
Thank you, Nanette. Thank you for being on my podcast.
You're welcome. Bye.
Well, like I told you, Nanette is an inspiration. I know. And I think one of the biggest things that I want you to take from what she said is two things. Number one, she really believes that she can eat whatever she wants. And just because she thinks that she can eat whatever she wants doesn't mean that she's joy eating all day long. She just knows that she can. And knowing that takes the urge from actually wanting to just eat anything and everything. The other thing that I think was so amazing that she talked about is that it's still a challenge with joy eating. Listen, you can be working with me and finish working with me. You can still have challenges. It's not like everything just goes away. But here's what she said, and here's what I want you to hear, is that she has the tools now to whatever comes her way. She knows that she knows how to handle it. She knows that she knows how to come back to herself. She knows that she is worth her own commitment. She has her own back. And I don't know how much money that would be worth to you, but it was worth every penny I know for what she spent to be able to give herself that gift. So if this is something that you want for yourself, all you have to do is go to drdebbutler.com/work with me, and you can set up a mini session just like Nanette did. And maybe you're ready to begin this journey of having your own back and honoring your own commitments and losing as much weight as you want in the process. So until next week, no matter where else you go and no matter what else you do, and Nanette learned it and said it beautifully, please, please, please be very kind to yourself, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. If you're loving my podcast and you would like some more information to be able to follow along with, then please go to drdebbutler.com/change, and you can get a free copy of my companion book that goes with this podcast that I refer to in many different episodes. That is drdebbutler.com/change, CHANGE.